Today was Sir Keir Starmer's worst day as Prime Minister. He's currently so toxic that polonium looks at him and runs away.
Imagine this, a leader newly in office, yet already confronting a staggering collapse in public trust. Keir Starmer entered the political heartlands hoping to restore faith, to reconnect with a disillusioned base. Instead, he was met with resistance from the very communities he sought to reassure. What unfolds next is more than a failed visit. It's the unraveling of a political narrative. The carefully cultivated image of a steady hand, of a leader ready to rebuild Britain, has begun to fracture. Behind that image lie questions, promises unmet, priorities unclear, and a growing disconnect between message and reality. Across the UK, from the once reliable red wall constituencies to the echoing halls of Westminster, the mood is shifting. There's a rising sense of unease. Voters are no longer just asking what policies are on offer. They're asking who really understands them, who can be trusted, and who will actually deliver. This moment is not about statistics or sound bites. It's about trust, authenticity, and the very essence of modern political leadership. Stay with us as we continue to unpack these defining moments. If you appreciate clear, sharp analysis that cuts through the noise, don't forget to subscribe. We bring you what the headlines often miss: truth, context, and the bigger picture shaping Britain's political future.
The latest poll put Reform about 10 points ahead, and he's lost the red wall. So his team of crack advisors said, go to the red wall, win them back, slag off Nigel Farage. They'll love that, Sir Keir. Here's what happened.
I've got Peter from The Guardian.
Do you think one of the problems is that Nigel Farage can approximate talking like a human being, where you just resort to talking points and dodging questions?
He's lost The Guardian.
Reform UK say you're running scared of them, that you're sounding increasingly like them with some of the policies and announcements you've made recently. This is a speech that was very defensive, wasn't it?
He's lost Sky News.
Let me go to Chris Hope. Chris
Hope, GB News. Prime Minister Nigel Farage has 5 MPs, you've got 403. Are you panicking because Reform is so far ahead in the polls, it seems? Is he living rent-free in your brain? You went to a state school, your dad worked in a factory, your mum worked in the NHS, so why has a public school-educated former city trader got more in common with the red wall than you have?
The decision by Keir Starmer's team to send him into the red wall, Labour's former heartland, was not just bold. It was, in hindsight, a stunning strategic miscalculation. These are the very constituencies Labour lost in 2019, and instead of reconnecting with disillusioned voters, Starmer found himself publicly dismantled by the very media outlets that once gave him breathing room. The Guardian, Sky News, and GB News across the political spectrum tore into his performance. One particularly cutting line from a journalist summed up the mood: can Starmer even talk like a human being compared to Nigel Farage? This wasn't a misstep. It was a public relations collapse. Starmer looked visibly rattled, cornered, unconvincing, and, most damning of all, out of touch. It raises a fundamental question. How can a political leader claim to represent the working class when he's met with such open skepticism, even from media outlets that traditionally leaned Labour's way? The issue now isn't just whether he's panicking, it's whether he even understands why he's losing support. The press conference took an even darker turn when Starmer, unprompted, name-dropped Nigel Farage repeatedly, captured in a now viral clip. His voice quivered slightly as he uttered Farage's name over and over, exposing something deeper than just tactical frustration. It hinted at genuine political insecurity. Matthew Laz's immediate response on air, "He's rattled, isn't he?" was both spontaneous and devastatingly accurate. Labour MPs may have welcomed the confrontational tone, but this wasn't strength. This was desperation. Starmer's critique of Farage's platform, as unfunded and about taking down a few pride flags, lacked depth and conviction. Rather than outlining a compelling vision for Britain's future, Starmer ceded the political spotlight to his opponent. By making Farage the centerpiece of his attack, he elevated him, gave him legitimacy, gave him airtime, and that perhaps is the most baffling move of all. Why would a prime minister or a prime minister in waiting spend precious national attention amplifying a rival rather than presenting solutions of his own? It was a communications failure, a leadership failure, and above all, a moment that made one thing painfully clear. Keir Starmer is struggling not just to lead, but to connect. If you're following this unraveling of Labour's strategy and want more clear, unscripted analysis that cuts through the noise, make sure to subscribe. We're tracking every major moment as British politics enters one of its most turbulent chapters in decades.
He's got Nigel Farage living rent-free in his head, and just in case he wasn't absolutely sure, he's being told how unpopular he is.
Speed of the decline in your popularity is historically unprecedented. Isn't this speech today an admission that you have failed and Nigel Farage understands voters better than you?
Keir Starmer's attempt to portray Nigel Farage as economically reckless has backfired spectacularly. In fact, the very journalist who raised the issue highlighted the glaring hypocrisy at the heart of Starmer's own record. You went into the election promising to freeze national insurance and maintain the two-child benefit cap. Yet you've raised national insurance on businesses and are now considering scrapping the cap. Isn't attacking Nigel Farage's economic credibility a bit rich? This was more than a political misstep. It was a breach of trust. Starmer lectured the public about unfunded spending even as his own promises were crumbling. Pensioners, farmers, business owners, anyone concerned about financial stability and honest governance will be looking at this moment and shaking their heads. How can a leader ask the public to trust him with their future, their jobs and their mortgages when his word appears to hold so little weight? This is no longer a debate over individual policies. It's about the bedrock of leadership itself, credibility. Without it, no government, no matter how well-intentioned, can command confidence. If you want more clear, unfiltered analysis like this, coverage that cuts through the political spin and exposes what's really happening, make sure you subscribe. We're tracking every major moment as Britain's political future hangs in the balance.
You went into the election promising to freeze national insurance and keep the two-child benefit cap. You've since raised national insurance on businesses and now you're considering axing the cap. Isn't attacking Nigel Farage's economic credibility a bit rich?
Yikes. And then, after all that, he has the temerity to say that he's more trustworthy than Nigel Farage.
And that's the question you have to ask about Nigel Farage. Can you trust him? Can you trust him with your future?
Former Labour Party advisor Matthew Laza has delivered a striking assessment of Keir Starmer's current standing in the media, a moment that signals a broader shift in the political landscape. In a candid admission, Laza expressed genuine surprise at the sharp change in tone from journalists who, until now, had been remarkably restrained in their scrutiny. One of the features of Starmer's premiership, and even before he became Prime Minister, is that the press have been very, very gentle with him, Laza noted. What went on in that room today was a complete reversal. It is, by all accounts, a damning admission. For years, Starmer benefited from what many perceived as a media environment willing to give him space, benefit of the doubt, and minimal direct challenge. But that chapter appears to have closed. The gloves are now off. And if this level of scrutiny continues, Laza warns, Starmer's leadership could be in serious jeopardy. This is more than just a difficult news cycle. It represents a critical shift in how the press, and by extension the political establishment, now view the Prime Minister. The expectations placed on him, coupled with mounting internal dissent over policies like the two-child benefit cap, are no longer being quietly absorbed. They're beginning to crush him under the weight of public accountability. So the question becomes, has the media finally woken up to the growing discontent around Starmer's leadership? Or is this merely the opening salvo in what could become a sustained campaign of political pressure? If you want sharp, no-spin analysis on moments like this, coverage that explains the deeper currents in British politics, make sure you're subscribed. Because if this shift continues, it won't just reshape public perception of Starmer. It may redefine the balance of power heading into the next general election.
Pensioners, farmers, business owners, people who care about not giving away British sovereign territory, people who pay energy bills, the disabled, private school parents, just some of the people who might feel as though Sir Keir Starmer hasn't been entirely honest with them in his first 10 months as PM. And all he's got now is to try and say how working class he is.
Like Nigel Farage, I know what it's like growing up in a cost of living crisis. I know what it's like when your family can't pay the bills, when you fear the postman and the bills that may be brought.
Look, nothing screams being in touch with the public like delivering a series of speeches in secure, sterile locations surrounded by security. He can't go and meet working class people because this happens.
That man is not allowed in my pub. Get out of my pub. Go on. Get out of my pub.
The optics were painful. Keir Starmer's latest attempt to portray himself as a working-class champion has been widely criticized, and not without reason. In one speech, he declared, "I know what it's like growing up during a cost of living crisis. I know what it's like when your family can't pay the bills, when you fear the postman and the letters he brings." But the delivery felt forced, scripted, and ultimately disconnected. His words, offered in a tightly controlled environment surrounded by security, failed to resonate with the very voters he was trying to reach. There was no grit, no lived-in truth, just polished talking points delivered in sterile venues far removed from the daily realities of ordinary Britons. This isn't the kind of authenticity the Red Wall demands. This is political theater, performed at arm's length behind barriers and briefing notes. The most damning moment, however, didn't come from a speech. It came from the public. A now viral clip shows a pub landlord confronting Starmer directly. "That man is not allowed in my pub. Get out of my pub. Go on, get out of my pub." It's more than just a bad headline. It's a visceral, unscripted moment that lays bare Starmer's growing disconnect from the people he claims to represent. When a political leader needs private security to meet ordinary citizens and still gets thrown out of a pub, it's not just a PR disaster. It's a symbol of lost trust. This isn't about class credentials or childhood hardship. It's about credibility in the present, how a leader engages with real people in real places under real pressure. And in that regard, Starmer is falling short. If you want more clear-eyed, unfiltered analysis of moments like these, coverage that goes beyond the headlines and exposes the political reality, be sure to subscribe. We're tracking every key shift in the political landscape as it happens.
So I'm the opposite. I'm completely surprised that the press have turned on him. One of the features, I believe, of Starmer's premiership and before he was Prime Minister is that the press have been very, very gentle with him, very gentle. And what went on in that room today, I thought, was a complete reversal of where they've been up till now. If they keep that pressure on, I think he could go. The problem with having so many MPs is that they can form really big clumps and come after him, and with a two-child benefit situation I think he could be in trouble, and with the winter fuel you've seen where it is. So I think everybody now is hounding him.
Shah has just dropped a political bombshell, one that may mark a turning point not just for the Conservative Party but for the Labour Party as well. Up until now, the rise of Reform UK has been viewed largely as a Conservative problem, a threat to Tory vote shares, particularly in key battleground constituencies. But that assumption is rapidly unravelling. This is no longer just about Reform UK siphoning off disaffected Conservative voters. What we are witnessing is the early phase of a broader political realignment, one that now threatens Labour's electoral strongholds as well. The notion that this movement only endangers the right has been overshadowed by a far more sobering reality. Labour may be next in the firing line. As the traditional left-right divide begins to blur, Reform UK has emerged as a potent populist force. Its appeal is no longer confined to disillusioned Tories. It's beginning to resonate with working-class Labour voters, especially in areas where trust in Westminster politics has collapsed. The party's messaging, anti-establishment, direct, emotionally charged, is cutting through where conventional political communication fails. In a telling moment during a recent interview, Starmer was asked a simple question about past drug use, one he refused to answer 14 times. It may seem trivial on the surface, but it speaks volumes. Voters expect clarity, not evasion. And the more Starmer hesitates, the more the perception of inauthenticity hardens. What we're seeing now is more than just a rough patch in the polls. It's a deeper, more structural crisis. Labour is grappling with internal division, especially on policies like the two-child benefit cap. Media scrutiny has intensified, and Reform UK is increasingly living rent-free in the Prime Minister's political psyche. Starmer's efforts to project himself as a man of the people have not just faltered, they've collapsed under the weight of public skepticism. A party that once commanded loyalty across Britain's industrial heartlands is now facing a wave of anger from the very communities it was built to represent. And so the question emerges, has Starmer already sealed his own political fate? What we're witnessing is not simply a leader under pressure, it's a system under strain. The rules are changing, the electorate is restless, and the old party machines, built on predictability, are failing to adapt. This could be the start of a new chapter in British politics, or the beginning of a profound unraveling. Either way, the battle for the political soul of the country has clearly begun. What do you think? Has Starmer lost control of the narrative? Is Labour on the brink of its own populist reckoning? Let me know in the comments. And if you want continued sharp analysis on the evolving state of UK politics, delivered without spin, don't forget to subscribe. The road ahead is unpredictable, and we'll be tracking every twist and turn.